He was the man no one saw, just a ghost in a blue uniform, polishing reflections of other more important lives. His name was Liam O'Connor, and he was standing in the exact spot where, in less than 10 seconds, his life would shatter and rebuild itself forever. What happens when the invisible man is suddenly the only person someone sees? If you believe in the quiet strength of good people and the power of a single moment, please take a second to like, share, and subscribe to Apex Tales. Your support helps us find and share more stories that matter. Liam's life was a marathon of exhaustion run on a loop. His alarm was a whisper in the pre-dawn dark of his small apartment, a signal to rise before his 8-year-old daughter Chloe awoke. He'd make her breakfast, his movements practiced and quiet, packing her lunch with the same care he once used to bandage her scraped knees. Her laughter was the only color in the gray fatigue of his world. His wife Amelia had been gone for 5 years, taken by the screech of tires and a rain-slicked road. The accident left him with a toddler who had her mother's eyes and a mountain of hospital bills that still cast a shadow over every paycheck. Since then, Liam had been a mechanic, a warehouse loader, and now a janitor at Aurelian Global, cleaning bathrooms and mopping the vast marble floors of a corporation that barely knew he existed wasn't a career. It was survival. But it paid just enough to keep the lights on and buy new shoes for Chloe's constantly growing feet. At Aurelian, he was furniture, a silent fixture everyone looked past. But beneath the tired eyes and the worn-down humility, there was a core of dignity that hardship couldn't erode. He'd wipe down the towering glass doors each morning, watching the executives glide by, men and women who smelled of expensive coffee and ambition, their faces illuminated by the glow of their phones. He often wondered what that life felt like, a life without the constant dull ache of fear of the next bill, the next rent increase, the next unexpected cold. He never complained. Instead, he'd hum old songs Amelia used to love, his mop tracing slow, rhythmic circles on the floor, catching the first golden light of the rising sun. But on this bright, sharp morning, the rhythm broke. As Liam finished mopping near the executive elevator bay, the brushed steel doors slid open. A young woman stormed out, not gliding, but marching. Her heels struck the marble with a sound like ice cracking. She was immaculate, a crisp white blouse, a tailored navy skirt, her dark hair pulled back with severe precision. Everyone in the lobby turned, their chatter dipping for a moment. This was Alara Vance, the company's new CEO. The whispers in the hallways said she was a calculator in human form, cold and ruthless, a woman who had clawed her way to her late father's throne. But the woman Liam saw didn't look heartless. She looked hunted. Her hands visibly trembled as she stabbed at the screen of her phone. Her expression, locked in a mask of corporate steel, flickered with raw, undiluted panic. She stopped directly by his janitor's cart, so close he could smell her faint, expensive perfume, completely unaware he was even there. "This cannot be happening," she muttered, her voice tight. "Not now, not like this." Before Liam could discreetly roll his cart away, she spun, her desperate eyes locking onto his for the first time. "You," she said. Her voice was low, urgent, and shaking. Liam froze, his hands tightening on the mop handle. "Ma'am, you. I need a favor. A crazy one. Right now." She was breathing fast, her gaze darting over his shoulder toward the elevators. "Pretend you're my boyfriend." She shook her head as if that wasn't enough. "No. Pretend we kissed for 8 minutes, please." The mop nearly slipped from his grip. "Ma'am, I think... Please," she interrupted, and the steel in her voice cracked, revealing something raw and terrified. "If you don't help me, I will lose everything. My father's company. Everything. Just follow my lead. Now." Before Liam could form a single word, Alara Vance stepped into his space, her hand clutching the sleeve of his blue uniform. Over her shoulder, he saw them. 2 men and a woman, sharply dressed, exiting the elevator. Reporters. The flash of a camera lens confirmed it. In the span of a single heartbeat, Alara's entire demeanor shifted. The panic vanished, replaced by a practiced, brilliant smile. She leaned closer, her breath shaky against his ear, and whispered, "Just act natural. Please." Liam stood frozen as the world exploded in a blinding storm of flashbulbs. Alara's hands, which had been trembling, slid gently to rest on the front of his work shirt. She looked up into his startled face, not with panic, but with a soft, affectionate gaze so convincing it chilled him. He understood. This was a performance. "Miss Vance, is this the mystery man you've been hiding?" Is this why the engagement to Marcus Thorne was called off? Liam's heart hammered against his ribs, but he remembered her plea. I'll lose everything. He didn't touch her. He didn't touch her. He didn't move. He simply held her gaze. And in that moment, the janitor no one ever saw looked at the most powerful woman in the building with a simple, steady calm that anchored her frantic energy. He looked at her, and for that moment, he saw her. The lie looked real. For 8 surreal minutes, Liam O'Connor became the epicenter of a fabricated love story. The cameras flashed, capturing an image that would be uploaded, shared, and dissected by thousands before the hour was over. The untouchable CEO and the mysterious, quiet man from nowhere. When the reporters, finally satisfied, lowered their cameras and moved on, Alara let out a breath that seemed to be holding her entire body upright. She stepped back, her professional mask crumbling, her hands trembling once more. Thank you, she whispered, not looking at him. You saved me from a scandal I didn't cause. Liam, his own pulse roaring in his ears, found his voice. You're welcome, ma'am. I should get back to work. Wait, she stopped him, finally meeting his eyes. What's your name? Liam O'Connor. Liam, she repeated, as if testing the name. Please come to my office after your shift. I owe you an explanation. And I owe you more than that. That afternoon, Liam O'Connor rode the executive elevator to the top floor, a place janitors only ever saw empty in the dead of night. Alara's office was a glass box in the sky, with a view that stretched from the city to the horizon. It made his small apartment feel like a shoebox. She sat behind a sleek black desk, looking both powerful and painfully tired, the CEO mask firmly back in place. My father's company, she began, her voice crisp, is being attacked from within. A rival board member, Marcus Thorne, the man they mentioned, my ex-fiancé, has been leaking lies to the press to discredit my leadership. He started a rumor about a secret lover to make me look unstable. When those reporters showed up unannounced, I panicked. I needed to make the rumor look harmless. I needed someone, Liam finished quietly. Anyone. Yes, she admitted. It was unfair to drag you into that. You could have refused. You could have walked away, but you didn't. You looked at me like I was a person, not a headline. Liam shrugged softly, looking at his own worn hands. Everyone deserves kindness, ma'am, even when they're wearing a $1,000 suit. For the first time, she laughed. It was a real sound, quiet and rusty, and it softened the sharp edges of her face. Over the next few days, the photo was everywhere. Alara Vance's new man. People speculated wildly. He was a tech billionaire, a model, a European investor. Not a single person guessed he was the man who cleaned their toilets. To contain the fire, Alara made another, more calculated decision. She found him by his cart a few days later. I have another favor to ask, she said, her voice formal. The company's annual foundation gala is this weekend. I need an escort. I need you to continue the arrangement. Just for one night. Smile for the cameras, we'll make a donation, and then you can go back to your world, and I'll go back to mine. Liam hesitated. He thought of the noise, the cameras, the expensive suits. He didn't belong in that glittering world of chandeliers and champagne, but then she named the generous bonus she would pay him for his time. It was enough to pay for Chloe's school fees and supplies for an entire year. He thought of his daughter's smile. I'll do it. The gala night shimmered with gold light and the murmur of forced laughter. Liam, wearing a rented tuxedo that felt stiff and foreign, looked profoundly uncomfortable, yet undeniably dignified. When Alara appeared beside him in a stunning silver gown, her armor complete, heads turned. They were a striking, if unbelievable, pair. But as the night wore on, Liam watched her. Behind the polished grace, he could still see the woman from the lobby, cornered and fighting. He watched as the same people who smiled to her face turned and whispered cruelly behind her back. Too young for the role. She's just her father's shadow. She's definitely using that man for sympathy. It's pathetic. Liam's hands, rough from the mop handle, clenched at his sides. He had endured a lifetime of being judged for his job, of being invisible. But watching her face harden against the same kind of quiet, dismissive cruelty, it stirred something fierce and protective inside him. The moment came at their table. Marcus Thorne, her rival, glided over, a predatory smile on his face. Well, Alara, you're full of surprises. He looked Liam up and down with a sneer. This must be your latest charity project. The table went silent. Alara's face went pale with fury. Before she could speak, Liam calmly placed his napkin on the table and met the man's gaze. Actually, he said, his voice clear and steady, she's the one saving this company from men who mistake arrogance for intelligence. The silence that followed was absolute. Marcus Thorne's smile vanished, replaced by a dark flush. Alara's eyes, wide with shock, met Liam's across the wine glasses. They were filled with a gratitude so profound it needed no words. Later, as they left the gala, they walked in silence through the cool night air, the city lights spread out below them. Alara had her arms wrapped around herself. "You know, Liam," she said softly, "when you looked at me in that lobby, I just thought you were a good actor. But tonight, you stood up for me. No one's done that in a long time. You made me believe I'm not alone in this fight." Liam smiled faintly, looking up at the glass tower they had just left. "You're stronger than you think, Miss Vance. Maybe you just needed someone to remind you." In the days that followed, something shifted. The arrangement was over, but a strange, quiet friendship had begun. Alara started seeking his advice. She'd find him during his shift, a cup of coffee in her hand, asking not about stocks, but about people. "The team in logistics is unhappy. What do you hear? What do you think of this new community initiative?" The janitor, the man who saw everything from the sidelines, became the unlikely confidant to the CEO. He knew who was struggling, who felt unheard, who was a leader, and who just made noise. Slowly, respect replaced the barrier between their two worlds. She began to see the company through his eyes. But the truth had a gravity of its own. It couldn't stay hidden forever. One afternoon, a rival news outlet, likely fed by Thorne, published the exposé. The headline was brutal. "The CEO's boyfriend is Aurelian's janitor." Within an hour, the story went viral, but this time the tone was one of mockery and outrage. Alara's office exploded with calls. The board demanded an emergency meeting. They called it a scandal, a disgrace, an unprofessional lapse in judgment that threatened their stock price. Liam was quietly told to pack his things. That evening, Alara Vance stood before a packed press room, a crowd of flashing cameras and hostile microphones. She looked small behind the podium, but when she spoke, her voice didn't tremble, not this time. "You're right," she said, her voice ringing out, clear and strong, looking directly into the cameras. Liam O'Connor is a janitor. He is also a hardworking single father. And in the past few weeks, he has shown more integrity, more kindness, and more courage than anyone else I have met in this building. The room fell silent. Liam watched from a monitor in the empty lobby, his heart pounding. "You call this a scandal," Alara continued. "But the real scandal is a company that has forgotten how to see the people who keep it alive. If valuing a man for his character and not his title makes me unfit to lead, then maybe this company needs a new definition of leadership." Days later, Liam was called back to the glass tower. He walked into her office expecting a final, polite severance. Instead, Alara was smiling. "We're starting a new department," she said. "Community and employee relations. I need someone to run it. Someone who knows how to listen. Someone who knows how to see people, not just their positions." Liam stared at her, speechless. "Ma'am, Alara, I don't have a degree. I don't." "You have something rarer," she said gently, coming around the desk. "You have a heart that people trust. You've already been doing the job better than anyone. Will you take it?" Months later, Aurelian Global was a different place. Employee turnover dropped. New welfare programs were launched for the building's maintenance, security, and cleaning staff, the people Liam had worked with for years. And at every board meeting, the woman who once faked a relationship sat beside the man who had taught her what real compassion looked like. On a bright, clear morning, Liam stood on the sidewalk, holding Chloe's hand. She was wearing a brand new school uniform, her backpack bright red. A car pulled up, and Alara stepped out, not in a power suit, but in simple jeans and a sweater. Chloe ran up to her, giggling. "Miss Alara, Daddy says you're his boss." Alara laughed, crouching down to her level. "Maybe, but sometimes, Chloe, he's mine too." If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Apex Tales. Let's keep spreading stories that remind the world how powerful empathy and simple human decency can be. And before you go, comment below. What would you have done if you were Liam that day in the lobby? Would you have said yes, not knowing it would change your life forever?